start at the top with one molecule of glucose. We get to the bottom at pyruvate. Pyruvate, when you get to pyruvate, there's a fork in the road. I'm originally from New York and New Jersey. I'm a big New York Yankees fan. How many people remember who Yogi Berra is? You know who Yogi Berra is? What did Yogi Berra say when you come to a fork in the road? Take it. When you get to pyruvate, you have a huge fork in metabolism. You can go one of two ways. The way we want to go is pyruvate being converted into acetyl coenzyme A, and we get inside the Krebs cycle. If we go that way, that defines aerobic glycolysis, the aerobic breakdown of glucose. When we go out to just jog, it's almost all aerobic, and almost all the pyruvate that we get from carbohydrate metabolism is going to go this way. If we start making the pace a little bit faster, then a little bit faster, then a little bit faster still, eventually we're going to get to a pace in which we're relying so much on carbohydrate, because the faster the pace, the more we rely on carbohydrate and the less we rely on fat. So the faster the pace, the more breakdown of glucose we get, the more pyruvate we get. We get to a pace where we're relying so much on glucose that we're producing so much pyruvate that it overwhelms the ability to get into the Krebs cycle. And then what happens? We go the anaerobic pathway, and pyruvate is chemically reduced to lactate. And as we'll learn later, lactate's not a problem. There are other things that happen at the same time that lactate is produced. But this way is going to cause fatigue a lot sooner because of, like I said, the other things that occur during anaerobic metabolism. So the reason I put this up here is not to overwhelm people, but distance running comes down to what's on this slide. And it's so important, I'm going to go up there, and I'm going to use a laser pointer, I'm going to use my hands. Because the goal of training for distance runners is to keep increasing the speed at which we take pyruvate that way and go into the Krebs cycle. If we can keep making that happen at faster and faster and faster speeds, then what's going to happen? We're going to be able to handle a faster pace before we start to fatigue, before we start to go this way to lactate. So we want to delay this path, this fork in the road, for as long as possible, or at the fastest speed as possible. You take somebody off the street when they're untrained, and right away, they're going to start relying on carbohydrate and go that way, and they're going to fatigue at a pretty slow pace. But then you train them month after month after month, year after year after year, and the pace that they can handle aerobically increases. That is huge for a distance runner. Because the goal is to keep increasing the speed at which it's still aerobic. How many of you watched the Olympics last year and watched these Kenyans and Ethiopians run? You know, these guys run a marathon at sub-5-minute pace, and it's aerobic for them. Now that's impressive. If you can run a 450-mile pace and that still be aerobic, that's pretty impressive. For most of society, 450 pace, people are going to be like, I mean, they're going to be so out of it, it's going to be so anaerobic for them. So the goal of training is to keep increasing the speed at which it's still aerobic, because that's what's going to delay fatigue. Does that make sense? That is key to a distance runner.